all the realities that are confronting those of us who are following all the realities that are unfolding, and
Many to count. Each one more
really,
horrible than the next.
yeah, it's like an unfolding train of nightmares
Yeah.
or
I want to
something.
say, we were just talking about Nolan Wells. My feed is absolutely full of the most brilliant, heartbreaking analysis, heart-wrenching, crying, screaming into the void. Why does this keep happening? Anyway, but I'm reminded of Tevis, like for years and years, those of us who've been in my field, particularly, like, how do you come to work I know this past week it was, how do I come to work when we used to come to work on a Tuesday with these things that happen over the weekend? And how do we hold our colleagues and our friends? And do we not talk about it? Do we need to talk about it? It was always this question of workplace inclusion, was this question of, and this is just the workplace, not just the world that we're talking about, but in particular, it was, how do we honor what happens to a community here that impacts us, our ability to focus, work at all, show up at all, when you are literally carrying this broken heart with you, and you can't function. And this happened, I remember, after the Pulse nightclub shooting, right, for the LGBTQ community. My friend, my gay friend, he was in a corporation, shall remain nameless, but he had a wonderful CEO who was very plugged in. And the CEO literally reached out to my friend. First of all, the CEO wore black the next workday.
Oh, wow.
Yep. And then he reached out to my friend and said, I would just want to check in with you. How are you feeling today? And it was I have a million stories like that, actually, from my world and my colleagues, because, so many of the people I was blessed to work with, so for so many years, did work for companies where things were said, things were spoken about, things were not denied. There wasn't silence, but just right now, like, as a solopreneur, like, who do I process it with,
Yeah.
that, and we all need that moment, and we need the acknowledgement, and we need to give the acknowledgement that I'm here, I'm listening, I'm witnessing, I'm not okay with this. This is seriously, like, disgusting part of humanity, of our country, of our culture. And it's hard to know what to do with it and where to put it. And
Well, you
yeah.
said something really, God, so resonant. And we're going to keep this short, y'all, for anyone watching, because Jen's got to go and run to a nonprofit her partner's involved in. But you said, how do we go to work? Right. And I've had similar experiences. When Trayvon Martin happened, one of the CEOs of a very well-funded family practice called me to work on a strategy around creating space. And when 9/11 happened, I was at AOL Time Warner, and they made space. Like, they told everyone, take time if you need. So all of that is good and lovely. But I think that, and I'm sorry for the mowers in the background. They usually come on Mondays. This is just life happening.
Life in the country.
Lifing. But I feel like this question, how do I go to work, almost begs a different question, and that is, what is the work? And right now, the work, whether we look at these horrible artifacts of our division and capacity for cruelty based on any differentiator, but yes, definitely race, definitely gender, definitely preferences, like the question of what is the work in an aggregated algorithm that we call culture that is increasingly dividing us.
What is the
Right?
work?
Like, what is that work? And it's kind of interesting because the question has come up a number of times, in, like, the podcast invites I get sent, like, what is the role of consultants like you and I now, or leadership now? And it's that thing that no one is really good at, and that is the work of being human together,
Mm.
of sharing pain together. Like, we're so allergic to even admitting that it hurts our hearts, right?
Yeah.
That it rips at the fabric of what we believe to be good in one another, and in that moment that we need to rebuild that fabric, to be reminded of our shared humanity, of our capacity for caring, that when one of us hurts, all of us hurt, right? It's really like this moment, like that to me is the work, and it is the scariest work to
Mhm.
do in the context of our culture, is just to come forward and say, "This is really disg like, this is
There's no words.
horrifying."
Mm. I know. It's so true. You're so right. The just well, not discomfort, fear of feeling, fear of, accountability, fear of, what if that were me? Fear of empathy and being sort of sucked into this is just sat deep, deep sadness, anger, pain. The empathy when you feel it deeply and you've been looking at it, even if you're not in the community that's impacted. The question of like, how do I express what this feels like from this body and in
Mhm.
this identity? Um, but it is a shared pain that you so deeply want to say, I do not feel it in exactly the same way, but I feel it deeply. And it is all that I can think about. And I just have had a hard time focusing today. And ever since it happened, I've been um, kind of coming in and out of the story and watching it develop. And I am similarly extremely unable to, I think, perform. And I think let's dig into that, come to work. I love that you reframed it. What is the work? What is the work of working together? Like, what does it mean to care enough about each other that, we don't, the workplace isn't this disembodied thing. We are humans in it. We are having a human experience in it. All of this noise about, we don't support each other in that way anymore because it's not legal to do so anymore. We can't talk about it, therefore we won't talk about it. I want to say to anybody who's listening to this, just like the story I just told, you still have the agency to reach out, to express how this feels, and to offer solidarity, offer, to be a witness and
Yeah.
express that you are witnessing, because this is how we get better. It's how we remember. It's how we hold ourselves accountable. It's how we hold each other accountable. It's how we used to hold our organizations accountable.
Yeah.
And I thought we were making progress towards that in certain years and certain eras of the work where it was like, you don't not talk about it. Like, this is what we learned. This is what was revealed, and this is what we started to practice.
Well, yeah.
And it's kind
What
of
we
making me
started
sad about
to
that too. We
right,
started
what we started to, in the face of a system that was informed by feudalism, that denigrates the humanity, the value, the worth, the validity of anyone other than your social class, right? And I think therein lies the crux, is that the vestiges of this way of thinking is what mandates that our leaders, as they rise, curate
cut out.
their ability to feel, because you can't objectify people that you feel with. And I go back to Martin Buber, right, the philosopher, and I've gone back to, it's a really simple statement: I, thou, here, now.
Mm.
So when we're treating the other as a thou, it's invoking a more auspicious, a more profound sense of our own being that then doesn't allow us to be a classist, racist, sexist, any kind of bigotry, because we're saying to other person, "You are sacred." Thou
Mm.
thou invokes a sacredness. And it's yeah, okay, namaste. The light in me sees the light in you. I'm talking about our embodiments. I'm talking about our walk around, sorry, concussion, our walk around roles in society. I'm talking about how do we bring it alive?
Mm.
I, thou, here, now.
Yeah. And institutions are going to do what they do. But to me, the responsibility, accountability lives between us, you
Oh,
know?
yeah.
And
Well, yeah.
but no,
Yeah.
of course it lives with them, but I'm in a mood lately, if you forgive me,
Yeah.
that is extremely cynical about like institutional change, honestly, because it's been shown to be more performative than I ever realized, and that
Yeah.
I didn't believe that it could be, and I have had an enormous loss of faith in that. So I'm sort of searching for what's real. And what is real is I, thou, here, now.
Yeah.
That is what we can know is real.
Mhm.
And this is what we can still of course, have the agency to give and to express and to remind and to practice, like, and to walk that path.
Mhm.
You know, but this news is heartbreaking. And witnessing the heartbreak in others, in parents, in families, in relatives, and to know that the heartbreak has happened over and over and over again and has been a part of daily life.
Yeah.
The most powerful conversations, again, kind of reflecting on the years of work, were some Black parent on the leadership team saying, I have to have conversations with my kid that you do not have to have,
Yeah.
to their colleagues. And it was always one of the most, it just said it all. There was kind of nothing else that really, I hope, needed to be expressed when that conversation happened. Like, it woke people up. It literally was like the cold water ice bath, like
Mhm.
reality, and reality about privilege, reality about what I don't have to face as I walk through the world, the fear I don't have to feel, and it made the point, like,
Mhm.
so personally, so powerfully. And yet, when you just now sitting where we are now, the things that should have accumulated to greater understanding, to greater compassion, the things that when you wake up, do you stay awake? Do you go back to sleep? When somebody has that conversation with you, do you take it on and let it change you so that you are never the same again, and so that you continue to see things around you? Or do you say, oh, phew, I'm off the hook. I don't have to think about this anymore. I don't have to
Yeah.
feel it anymore.
But Jen, so let's go back to the question of systemic change versus
Individual.
personal sovereignty, right?
Mm, back to our theme.
Yeah. Well, and that was not by design, but so when I started going into corporations, I was pretty clear-eyed about the culture resisting change and therefore going to personal empowerment. Like, how
Mhm.
do I behave within this? And I think that this is where it's our responsibility to become really awake as the participants in these systems to how the algorithms, how the constructs influence our thinking, right? How these constructs almost underscore the discomfort of difference that we may kind of turn away from or hit the snooze button on so that we can just continue to participate in the system, right? Which is writ large. Like, we could look at this, that
Mm,
Americans aren't out in the streets screaming every day like the rest of the country or the rest of the world is at
mm.
their governments, right? Like, we are really good at hitting the snooze button on our discomfort. And the the oh no. I can't tell.
I
Oh,
can I can
I
hear you.
lost power for a second, really weird.
No.
But the opportunity there, I feel like, is seeing the rub as the wake-up call, right? Seeing the discomfort
Mhm.
as the opportunity to actually see, how am I a part of a system that makes this truth something uncomfortable and that I wanna turn away from? Like,
Mm.
that urge to turn away, that urge to shut it down. Like, how do I use this exact impulse to recognize how I've been indoctrinated?
Yep. 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 I love the rub. That's the invitation. It's the edge. It's the thing to lean into, to a degree. I mean, we lean in and out of the pain, right? And
Mhm,
I think we also need to have grace with ourselves. We also thought a lot about, I remember thinking about the sort of lack of resilience that some of us have because of the things we haven't had to be a direct part of.
mhm.
There is a difference. There is a difference. And fragility, call
Yeah,
it what you want. It's real. I appreciate, may not appreciate the book, but appreciate the concept a
yeah,
lot, and practicing the resilience of solidarity when you haven't been directly impacted, but what is the product, is there such a I don't hate that word productive. What is the healthy, balanced, true way to feel others' pain? And what can be done about that? What should be done about it? How do you want to hold it? What do you want to
mhm.
do with it in the world? How do you want it to change you? How do you want it to inform, the light that you shine in the world? That's the
Yeah,
And that's how I've kind of every story I've been given over these many years like this, and there have been so many, just they stay with me and they're in my bones now. And I hold it sacredly because it is a sacred gift to get a window into the experience of others, and then to say, I want to carry that with me, and I want to share it, and I want people to hear it, and I want others to join me in not looking away from it.
yeah. I think that's true, and when we share our stories, we're giving people a gift of, deepening the weave of the fabric that holds us all,
Mm.
and I think that actually is the work that we're here to do.
Yeah.
It is, how do I hold this? And the word I would use, like you, productive, ugh,
Ugh.
enough of that, generatively. Like,
Yeah,
how do we take,
that word.
um, the most soul-searing evidence of that which is absolutely abhorrent, and how do we hold it as a moment to be generative
Mm.
within ourselves and with each other? It's kind of interesting. This is a factoid. Can I throw in a factoid?
Throw it in.
Um, I probably have said this. I'm sure I've said this, but, the hierarchy of needs, right, was never a hierarchy. It
Yes,
was
we talked about this.
yeah, 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 and
Yes.
to go back to what, m concussion,
It'll come.
Maslow
Yes, sorry, that's what you meant.
what Maslow, eventually understood is he went and hung out with the Blackfoot Indians, and
Yeah.
within those 5 essential needs, it all exists in the container of community, like, all of it, and that you cannot understand either satisfying those needs within yourself or within the whole, i.e., a corporation or whatever, a
Mhm.
family, a friend group,
Mm.
unless you begin with, the we of the community. And so in our Western culture, again, feudalistic, um, solo achieverism, right? It's really easy for us to abandon even that for ourselves and just hit the metrics, right? But
Mm.
when we look at it in the context of the we, I, thou, here, now, we as an auspicious expression of thou, here, now, right? And that makes my heart beat in a different way. when I
Mhm,
think about the moment that we're in across all of these horrors, just all of
mhm,
them.
mhm, mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's I think you were the one that told me that story first, and I hadn't considered we even call it a hierarchy of needs. I mean, think about that word. But what you're talking about is that it actually wasn't the somebody else put it into that structure to put food,
A
shelter, water.
consultant, a business consultant.
That's oh, figures. So, yeah, making kind of community like this thing that you have to like if you can grasp it, if you're lucky enough to have it, after you have other things and other needs met versus putting it as a foundation of
It's
everything
the
and everything else
context of everything, yeah,
flows from that.
yeah.
Even rethinking these models is so not surprising. Even that model needs to be redefined into its original form,
Mhm.
just like we're doing with everything else, like rethinking everything, these
Yeah.
days. And it's so painful. And it's so necessary to stay awake to it all and keep searching for the things that, I mean, I think I brought this up in a previous Substack live, but I've always learned that most songbirds' songs are male songbirds, and that has been the accepted truth. It's
Mm.
just that the listening equipment hasn't picked up on the female songs, but the females are singing. But we didn't we did not measure it. We didn't pick it up. It's just this constant we have to be vigilant and we get to discover more about our world and about how humans have distilled this world and how they have packaged it in incorrect ways and incomplete ways
Mm.
and therefore separating us from each other to your point
Mhm.
and gendering the world in that way. And I was as a female singer I was heartbroken that only male birds were singing. I mean,
I
it was
know.
very
I loved it when you shared that because it stood in such stark contrast to awareness about, female voices in human culture that there's a stereotype that women talk all the time, but
oh
actual studies show that men dominate spoken time across the board, and yes, I'm sure there are outliers, but statistically speaking, men dominate. So we're talking about hearing each other's voices and
mm,
how there's so much bias, right?
mhm, mhm.
Girl, I know you have to get to Kingston, to the
I
people's place, which we all love. If
do
there are
love it.
yeah, if there are people around here who are not familiar, with the people's place or people who come to the Hudson Valley and wanna swing by Kingston, it's this fabulous resource of food, farm stand, cafe,
All free.
um, hair salon, a wellness empowerment center that I lead ecstatic dance at,
That's great. You're teaching at it too.
yeah. So
Incredible.
so come check it out. We're gonna get Jen out the door, but before we get her out the door, we really wanna encourage you to think about coming and joining us at Omega. We're gonna be acknowledging the context, whatever the context is like in October is going to be real, and then we're going to be using various tools that both Jenna and I have cultivated across our decades of really wrestling with this "I, thou, here, now," to empower all of us because we're participants as much as the folks who signed up to empower all of us,
Mm,
um, to leave with a toolkit that keeps you so compassionately and ferociously,
mm.
connected to what allows us to do this work of being human in a world that would prefer that we don't.
Beautifully, beautifully said. We should have called our program I, Thou, Here, Now.
We could have called it
We called it a lot of things.
we could have called it humaning anyway, right?
I'm just gonna be over here humaning.
Don't let the bastards get you down, right?
I also love, Tevis, that you said whatever the context is in October, right? I think we have to caveat everything with that, which is
Yeah.
every week, every day, this is an evolving experience of humaning, and awakening and staying awake and choosing to stay awake and staying ferociously connected to each other. I love that. Just that vision, yeah, is it always possible? No. Do we slip away? Do we forget that it is I and thou? Yes, all the time. And when I get afraid and in my heart, I feel fear, I feel like discouragement, all those things, grief, I remind myself, wait, the community,
Yeah,
wait.
yeah.
Like, and I bring myself, and it's funny because when you are isolated in a way, not working around your beloved community all the time necessarily, you have to conjure it. You have
Yeah,
to
yeah.
you have to imagine it, and then you have to feel it. And
Yeah.
I had and have such an incredible, and I know you do too, and we share communities
Yeah.
too, um, of loving humans that are all kind of on this journey at various stages. I think we're all kind of in the mix, in the soup, depends on the day. But remembering that we do have access to that and it is
Yeah.
there all around us. And if it's not, let's create it. And I want to say about our gathering in October, I think we will dig into who is that for you? Can we be that for each other? What does it look like? How does it operate? How do you invite it in? How do you conjure it? And how do you remember it? Because this is what will sustain us. In Maslow hierarchy, it may not be food, shelter, water. It is real or perceived community, remembering that you're part of a fabric that's weaving all the time. You are part of that.
Yeah.
It is the antidote to loneliness. It is the antidote to isolation. And I think our program is going to talk about that and actually kind of make it very practical.
Well, I want to say the wisdom traditions are on our side, right? In the Vedic traditions, it says that you will fall asleep, and the point is to wake up again and again and again. And it all talks about the connection of all beings. And let's just go straight to JC, who said, "And the greatest of all of my commandments is love one another."
JC,
So
thank you. On
I
that
don't
note,
know. I'm down
um,
for that.
yeah, me too. I can't wait for October. But anyway, thanks everybody for joining and listening in. And
Thank you, everybody. Thank you,
off to you.
Jen.
And I know you are too, Tevis.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks.
Be
I'll
well.
see you today.
Bye.